By the way, this video is a segment from my bigger video, the 47 best things to do in Ghana. Make sure you check that one out too. I'll put a link at the end. And now for the big one, Accra. It's almost impossible to come to Ghana and not spend some time in Accra. And that's why I wrote a city guide, an opinionated city guide of Accra. And of course, I will put a link in the description. For this best of video, I am going to start with the Accra city tour. I'm thinking about making an in-depth video on this. Let me know if you'd like to see that. For a really complete city tour, you'll want to put all these places on your list. I've been to every one of them and done all the tours, and they're all good. There's not a dud in sight. However, you can customize this list to your tastes and the time you have. An early start is good, but don't start so early that you hit the morning rush hour. Traffic in Accra is bad. It's worse than LA. The good thing is that these places are fairly close together, so once you're in the area, you never have far to go. There are two pretty much must-visit places on this list. The first is Independence Square. Independence Square consists of Black Star Gate and Independence Arch. Together, these represent Ghana's struggle for freedom and independence. This place is iconic, and you definitely want to get a few selfies here. You can even climb to the top of Black Star Gate for a great view and an up-close and personal with the Black Star itself. And if you're wondering, it's only 60 steps to the top, and it's a good staircase, so not too difficult at all. If you decide to go up, there is a small maintenance fee that you'll have to give to the guys at the bottom, but it's well worth it. Oh, and when you're taking your pics over at Independence Arch, beware of the hawkers. They will try to sell you everything. They're friendly, but relentless. The other stop I highly recommend is Makola Market. That's where I got this fabric. If you've never been to a local African market, it's an experience not to miss. And Makola is the biggest market in Accra. And no matter how much video I show you, this is a place where the sights and smells and the feel of the place can really only be experienced when you're there. And it is so much fun to wander. I'll give you a little tip, is that usually if you get dropped off by a Bolt or a taxi, they'll drop you off on this main drag where the cars go through. As you're wandering around, try and keep track of where that main street is in relation to where you're wandering, just so you can get back to it easily, because that's how you're going to get a taxi to get out. And if you do lose track of it, just ask. The vendors are really awesome and they'll be happy to help you. Oh, and if you're staying in the Adenta or Medina area, the Medina Market over there is also a really awesome local market. It's a little smaller, it's more manageable, and honestly, it's actually my favorite. I think I like the more manageable size. If I want to just go in and find something and get out, it's really easy to do. So if you're on that side of Accra, don't hesitate to check out Medina Market. It's another great local experience. If you're going to cut your city tour short, your next choices will depend on your interests. If you're interested in civil rights and African American history, you're going to want to go to the W.E.B. Du Bois Museum. I always thought it was Dubois, but they say it Du Bois. He was a major civil rights leader and spent some of his last years in Ghana, and that's why there's a history here. It's a really good tour. And that's the reason for this shirt, because see the web? See the spider web there? That's for him, W.E.B. Web. So that's where I got this fabric. And if you're more interested in Ghana's political history, you're going to want to go to the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Center. Kwame Nkrumah led Ghana's independence movement and became the Prime Minister and first President of Ghana. Under his guidance, Ghana was the first African country to break free from colonial rule. If you're interested in a mix of Ghanaian history and art and culture, then you're going to want to go to the National Museum. When I visited in 2003, the National Museum was in the same spot, but I'll be honest, the displays were all dusty and old, and it really wasn't very impressive. But now, It has had a wonderful makeover, and it is modernized all the way down to having QR codes if you want more information. This is definitely a nice museum to visit. And if you like arts and crafts or you just need some souvenirs, go to the National Cultural Center. However, if you're coming up to Tamale, make sure you leave a little room in your suitcase because the Cultural Center up here has different stuff and is a little lower pressure. Honestly, whether it's up north or down south, I love all the arts and crafts in Ghana. So that's the city tour. But there is so much more to do in Accra. Let's go to the beach next. There are 3 major beaches in Accra that everyone talks about, and I'm going to give you the quick lowdown on all 3. The first is Labadi Beach, and it is the party beach. However, when I went, it was middle of the afternoon, and the party hadn't started yet. Thing is, I had a nice lunch, I had a bunch of people try and sell me things, and I could have taken a horse ride if I wanted. It's a nice beach. I can imagine when the party gets started, it's a whole lot of fun. The party goes long into the night. Ghanaians party long into the night. So I think the party starts sometime after dinner and goes till no one's awake anymore. So that's your party beach. The next beach everyone is talking about is Bojo Beach. And honestly, I'm not quite sure I get the appeal. Sure, there aren't any hawkers. And it's quiet. I'll say it's quiet, but it's kind of hard to get to. The food is mediocre, and it's kind of boring. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. And I only put it on this best of because a lot of people are talking about it, and I just got to be really honest with this one, is if you like peace and quiet, it may be the way to go. But if peace and quiet aren't quite your thing, you might want to check out Kokrobite. Now, I asked to go to Kokrobite Beach, and the taxi driver took me to Big Millie's backyard. So I never actually made it to see the waves and that. I could hear them, but I couldn't quite see them. But Big Millie's backyard has been a backpacker traveler stop forever. And it was fun. There was entertainment, awesome entertainment the whole time. There was good food. Things were reasonably priced. It was an awesome afternoon, and I highly recommend Big Millie's backyard. And to be honest, I have actually been told that the beach at Kokrobite is really good too. So I'm all in for Kokrobite. Now we're going to make a quick stop at the mall. I actually went to 3 malls in Accra, but for this best of list, there's only one really worth mentioning, and that's Accra Mall. It is a big, shiny, modern mall. It has a food court with a bunch of choices for food, all different types of food. There's a nice little room for ATMs that are very foreign card friendly. There's a theater up top. There are some stores will be familiar maybe, depending on where you're from, of course, but there's a Skechers and there's an Apple store and there's a Samsung store. And so you have all the modern stuff, but then you also have a pharmacy, a grocery store, and a beauty salon, and everything else. The nice thing is that with all these things to do, it's not a huge mall. You are not going to get exhausted walking all over the place, all around it. It is compact, but extensive, if that makes sense. And it's not crowded. It's just a very comfortable mall to walk through. And I'll tell you something, my teenage years were spent, in the mall. So I know my malls. We had 3 big ones in my hometown. I know my malls. And Accra Mall is awesome. And while we're talking about Western-friendly places, let's talk about Oxford Street in the Osu neighborhood of Accra. I actually have a full video where I pretended to be a newbie tourist, and you get to see the reactions of the vendors. So you're going to want to watch that one. Oxford Street is a fun place, day or night. There's a mix of roadside craft stores, and then there's a street market, and there are banks that are friendly to foreign ATM cards, and there's electronics stores, and there are Westerner-friendly restaurants and hotels, and there's even a Western-style grocery store. So it's a favorite hangout for tourists and expats. And as I say, I pretended to be a tourist, and you'll love the reactions I got. I did get this fabric, if you notice the new wardrobe change, on Oxford Street. I actually bought 2 fabrics while I was there because the guys I met were fantastic. But I've worn the other shirt in some other videos, so I decided to show this one off today. I will say, when you're dealing with the street vendors, bargain hard, because they are quick to assume that you're a rich newbie tourist, and the prices go up accordingly. So be smart. In addition to all the restaurants and such in the area, there's also a lot of bars and nightclubs, and this area is known as a bit of a party area. Now, I'm not a nightlife person. I never have been. So I don't have a direct report on the nightlife, but I have had a hotel in the area, and I can hear it going all night long. So that's something to consider if you're planning on staying in the area. You might want to ask the hotel how soundproofed their things are. And there are other party neighborhoods in Accra. So if you're interested in the nightlife party scene, ask at your hotel and tell them what kind of thing you're looking for, and they'll be able to put you in the right direction. But I've seen some of them during the day, and Oxford Street definitely has some cool places to party. Next on the list is the kind of tour that I really appreciate. I'm usually happy and content to walk around places on my own and discover them, and I don't mind being the outcast that everyone stares at, and that's fine with me. But the Jamestown walking tour takes you to Jamestown in a way that I guarantee I wouldn't have been able to wander around on my own and find the places that I get to see. Plus, the guide gives you a lot of history and perspective, which is really valuable, and it's a nice way to see this part of the city. Now, the tour takes place on Saturdays at 2 p.m., but you can arrange for a private tour, and you just have to contact them. And of course, I'll put the link in the description. You just have to contact them and work out a time that works best for you. Oh, now the next place on the list is a relatively new place to go in Accra. It just opened in 2021, and it hasn't gotten a ton of attention yet, and that's the National Mosque. The really nice thing is that, the mosque is a gorgeous building. You can see it from far away when you're driving up to it, and you can tell from there that it's gorgeous, and you get up close and it's even more gorgeous. But the nice thing is that they let non-Muslims inside, which most mosques don't do. And so you actually get to go inside and see everything. And it's really just beautiful and fantastic, and definitely worth your time. You should know that you will need to remove your shoes, and women may be asked to cover their hair. So plan accordingly. But this is definitely one of those architectural things that is really worth seeing. The next two places are day trips out of Accra, and these are also very much worth your time. The first is Aburi Botanical Gardens. The grounds are beautiful, the plants and trees are interesting, and the tour is really great. It's very interactive. You get to smell things and taste things, and they have this fungus tree that is the absolute best. And no, that is not nearly as gross as it sounds. And if you're interested in taking a trotro while you're in Accra, now you can always take within the city trotro and hop on anytime you want, but the ride up to Aburi is actually really kind of nice. And if you don't know what a trotro is, it's a minivan where they pack a bunch of people in. They have a reputation, but the one up to Aburi, you go up this nice curvy mountain, and one of the nicest things is you're not going to get stuck in traffic. And when you come out, you just hail one that's going down the mountain and make your way back. Depending on where you are staying, just ask at your hotel how you would catch a trotro to get to Aburi Botanical Gardens. Or you can arrange for a driver, of course. I do go into a lot more detail about how to do this in Accra, the Opinionated City Guide. So check it out. This other day trip is to a town called Ada. Don't call it Ada. I made that mistake and they were like, "What are you talking about?" And someone figured out it was Ada. Okay, and that is to the Nkyinkyim Museum. Yes, those letters are pronounced Chin-Chin. This museum was created by the legendary Ghanaian artist Kwame Bamfo. And it's not just a museum. It is this journey into the heart and soul of African history and heritage. And it's also an artist colony where there's a lot of ongoing projects in all stages of creation. There are a few things you should know. One is that the full tour is 90 minutes long, and it has a significant amount of walking in it. Worth it, but there's a fair amount of walking. Two, the museum is really far off the main road. There's a sign at the main road, and then you drive and you drive and you drive, and you get to a village, and you turn left, and you keep driving and driving and driving. And when you get there, you can't miss it. But until then, you start wondering, am I going the right way? But yeah, so it's really far off the main road, but it's really also not that hard to get to. And third, you'll want to arrange a driver that will wait for you and take you back to Accra, because Bolt doesn't work in Ada, and so no driver is going to want to go out and not have a full fare return trip. So plan the whole thing in one shot. If you're interested in going to some of the beach resorts and such in Ada, I talk about that in my city guide as well. By the way, several of the last things I've mentioned appear in my video, Hidden Gems of Accra, and I go into a little more detail about them. So I will leave a link for you to check that out as well. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.